Hi there, and welcome to WhyBuy Features. In this series, Behind the Scenes, we're going to be looking at some of the product reviews that we've done, some of the techniques utilized, and what sort of things that might help you in the Director program. If you're new to the channel, this is essentially some tips and tricks that might help you in making product reviews. So let's get into it. So in this episode, we're going to be looking at the PSE Night Hawk, which I believe we filmed 2021. And yeah, let's take a look at the intro.
Hey everybody, welcome to WhyBuy. Today we're going to be talking about my recurve bow, the PSE Night Hawk.
So right off the bat, the only scripted sequences we have in WhyBuy product reviews are the intro. Hey everybody, welcome to WhyBuy. Today we're going to be talking about product. And at the end, if you thought this video was helpful, please like and subscribe, show your support, and thanks for watching. But one thing I wanted to point out always, when you're plating your dialogue shot or the introduction sequence to the video, always try and have the product that the customer is talking about in frame. In this case, he's holding the bow, and you know, we have some depth to the shot as well. There's some trees in the background. You can see part of his deck and a flower bed, and the lighting is perfect because we shot this at the sunset, so you know, everything has a really nice shadow cast and it just helps add depth to the shot. So let's take a look at the montage. So a couple of shots, what I really like about montage sequences is that when you take the time to film B-roll and you get some really nice shots, you can, you know, essentially use them up here if you didn't get a chance to in the rest of the video. So in post-production, you know, we really want to build excitement. When people click on the video and they want to see the product that they're searching for, you know, we want to get them hyped, give it to them right away. This is it in action, and that sort of thing. But a few techniques that might help you here is a lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll shoot sequences. For example, at 27 seconds here where he's about to shoot the bow, I'll shoot that at 60 frames a second and then slow it down 40% in post to get it to about 24 frames a second. This really gives you a nice slow-mo effect if your camera doesn't have that, you know, when you're shooting raw. And it really just, you know, it gives you the flexibility in post-production to choose if you want something happening in real time or slowed down, so that the audience can just feel that sensation, that moment, just if it happens quickly. Let's go into the buying story here.
So I'm an avid outdoorsman. I spend a lot of time outside, lots of hunting, fishing, camping. Archery's always been something that I've been interested in. My dad shoots bow as well, but...
So one of the things that I'm just going to pause it here at a minute 12. One of the things that you'll notice is that in these videos, especially during the buying story, it can be hard to kind of tell a visual narrative, in that, you know, if they're talking about something that happened in the past, whether it was the research that they did or a store that they went to, or, you know, how they did it when they were a kid, or, you know, so on and so forth, you're not going to have footage for that, or it might be hard to get. So one of the things that we suggest to our directors is that you should always try and collect B-roll footage that the customer might have filmed prior. So that could be, in this case, like hunting products, or sport shooting or recurve bows. Maybe they have a trail cam, you know, motion activated cameras that they have footage from. Maybe they have GoPro footage of when they went out, you know, and went on a trip, or maybe it's, you know, something that they shot on their cell phone really quick that's interesting. These are little things that can help tell the visual story. This is a good example of how we didn't have that, so we filmed a lot of B-roll to help keep the pacing and the movement going as he's telling his story. So, you know, either way, you just want to keep the audience, the viewers of the video, interested and you know, give them as much as possible to give context and something, you know, of entertainment value.
And you get a great bow out of it, and you can do everything you want. If you want to get into hunting with it, you can, but mostly small game, maybe deer with this one, and that would be about it. Normally I like to shoot in the evening. one much like tonight, just kind of chill out in the backyard and take a few shots because it's awesome.
So I'm just going to pause it really quick at 1:51. So it's always good to have a combination of perspectives when it comes to B-roll. So, you know, close-ups, wide shots, it's really a balance between the two. You know, you want to give the audience the feeling of the setting, you know, those kind of establishing shots, those wide shots, but, you know, a lot of the time it's the detail and the feeling of being right there that's very critical. And I think what makes our product reviews special is that, you know, we try and get people as close as possible. You know, in this case, we're shooting a close-up of the target that the arrows went into. We saw the perspective, you know, the wide shot of him firing arrows, but like, where did they go and what is he doing? And what really helps us a lot of the time, and you can hear the squeak of when he pulls the arrow out of the rubber, sound. Sound is so critical to our videos, because really we have two mediums to communicate information from, visual and auditory.
Concern the neighbors too much instead of firing guns off or something like that, but you don't have to be a hunter to shoot the bow. I mean, lots of people do it recreationally. There's lots of archery ranges. I'm sure now with the pandemic though, I don't think they're open, but if you're fortunate enough to have room in your yard like I do, you know, it's a great way to let off some stress.
So I'm just gonna pause it really quick at 2:20. So what I love about this customer's delivery is that it's very genuine. He's just speaking casually as if it was, you know, by a bonfire kind of thing, just telling the story. And, you know, a lot of this came from direction while I was, because we had notes and we had pre-planning before this, but we had to kind of generate a dialogue. So there was kind of like a journalist style. It was inquisitive, like, oh, so how do you use it for this? Or, you know, what applications would be well suited for that? And it's really just trying to prompt the customers so that they can continue to tell their story. Because once people start getting too much into their own head about the narrative of it all, then it starts to become a little bit more robotic and rigid. So the key takeaway here is, you know, although the editing cuts out my questions and dialogue, try and prompt them. And always remind them, this is really important, if you ask a question, for them to say it back, but rephrase the question so that it's as if they're explaining it from scratch. So if I say, you know, how do you use the bow? And he answers, well, I shoot arrows. It's not there's no context for the audience. So I would tell him, oh, just rephrase the question, say, oh, I use the bow for shooting arrows. Terrible example I'm giving, but again, it's directing a WhyBuy product review. It's really about, yes, good cinematography and storytelling visually, but you really have to help sometimes the talent, the customers, you know, be more natural, comfortable on camera.
Bows, or three-piece bows you want to call it, have all the screw holes for the attachments, so you can put your quiver on here as well as the sights. You can put the stabilizer on there. Basically dress it right up for hunting. B-roll
is crucial to helping tell a story. If you know the key features or the things that are going to be discussed in the video, always ensure that you try and get B-roll to accompany those key points. The reason being is that, you know, people tend to lose interest if it's just the talking head the whole time. There has to be something to cut to. There has to be something contextually relevant. And that's why when he's talking about disassembly of the bow or the accessories that he's put on the bow, there is supplemental footage that we're using to tell that visually.
Also, I found with these, a lot of them are basically the same. So what I'm saying is the riser is the same size as well as the limbs, and you can actually fit different weights of limbs.
So I just want to pause it right there at 3:37. So I didn't mention this earlier, but if you're shooting at 60 frames a second for B-roll purposes, that you're going to slow down and get those slow-mo shots, it's very important that you remember to switch your camera settings back to 24 frames a second. because we use 24 frames a second for all dialogue components in our videos. At least we try to, because that's the cinematic quality that we are going for. And you know, sometimes when I'm shooting B-roll, I'll do both. I'll shoot at 60 frames a second, and then I'll reshoot the exact same sequence or, you know, movement at 24 frames a second, because I don't know what I'm going to want to be using in post-production yet. But it's always good to have your frame rates top of mind when you're capturing your footage.
Your draw and increase range and arrow speed with that. So this quiver that I use, this is a pretty generic quiver, like this would be more for, like, say, hunting for compound bow or any sort of bow, right? So
I'm just gonna stop it right there at 3 minutes, 57 seconds. What's interesting about when I shot this is it's not always the case where the product that I'm going out to film, I know anything about. So terminology, jargon, even just what things are called, you might not always know. And for example, when he said, "Oh, I have a quiver that I can attach," I was like, "What's a quiver?" Because I'm not in archery. It's not something that I'm an expert in or even have any familiarity with at all. So when you're out on location, you know, if you are unclear or if the customer's talking about something, just ask them, like, what are you referring to, so that you're filming the right thing and you're not kind of just aimlessly shooting B-roll. So it's always good just to ask, and that's okay. We don't expect our directors to be an expert in every single product that they're out filming.
They're a carbon arrow that they sell. I think they're around 10 bucks a piece. Typically these arrows are for compound bows, but you can also use them with recurve. Like, they do get wrecked eventually. The fletchings will get wore on one side because of how they rub against when you shoot. Like, they do get.
So I'm just gonna stop it right here at 4 minutes, 44 seconds. So what I love about products that, you know, are essentially mobile is that during the dialogue sequence, the customer can actually hold it and talk about it. Having a prop to, you know, use to talk about can be extremely helpful, but keep in mind that it might be good to do both. One where they're holding it and one when they're not, because what tends to happen sometimes is that they get distracted while they're trying to do something. The dialogue suffers from that because they're focused on what they're doing while trying to talk. It might just be like an additional barrier to delivering smooth dialogue. So in this case, he nailed it, you know, knew exactly what he was doing, the motions with the arrow, the bow, like, if it comes across well, then yeah, that's the take that you should go for.
Almost double the price, so I just go with these and they work perfectly fine. For maintenance on this bow, not much really. Don't leave it stringed. Like, every time you're done shooting, you should remove the string to take the tension off the limbs, and then also just waxing your.
So just gonna stop it right there at 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So there might be instances where during the planning stages and pre-production, there might be things that got left out. So in this instance, he was talking about a variation in arrows. One is cheaper than the traditional one with feather fletching, and I said, well, that's a good point. Like, we should talk about that, because he just brought it up in conversation while the camera was off. I'm like, let's talk about that quick, even though we didn't have it planned out to talk about, but he didn't know the exact price. And I said, that's okay. Do you remember roughly? It's like, yeah, I think it was about double the price. And that's fine. What's valuable here is the information that he was able to use arrows that were designed for a totally different bow on this recurve bow and save himself, you know, whatever the difference was. So, you know, always be mindful that there might be things that come up in improvisation, but doesn't have to be 100% accurate when it comes to something like price. It's like, oh, I think it was about twice the price.
Your string as well. I just do it every time. I'm not 100% sure how often you should do it, but I don't need this thing snapping in my face. That's why I always wear glasses when I shoot. I also will always wear my my armband there. Protects your arm from the string. The the string can come and hit your arm, and yeah, I've seen pretty big bruises before.
So I'm just gonna pause it at 5 minutes, 29 seconds. So he's talking about a sort of how-to for maintenance and care of the bow. And while our videos are product reviews and they typically discuss what the product does, its features, that sort of thing, we totally encourage customers who are enthusiasts and passionate about what they do to give some advice and tips, things to keep in mind, especially with regards to safety or how to get more usage out of it. You know, we want people to, you know, give some insight as to the how-to component of it. It doesn't just have to be strictly a product review.
And the dark woods in it. If you're looking for your first bow, I would highly suggest this one. It's great price, and it's easy to shoot, easy to put together.
So right around the 7-minute mark there, you'll see how we shot this carrying case from multiple perspectives, and it's something that I like to do for B-roll purposes, because a lot of the time, if you just get a singular perspective on a feature or a accessory, you're very limited as to how many times you can show that again. So what I looked at was, okay, well, why don't you do a sequence where you're taking it out of the bag? So bring the bag, unzip the bag, take the bow out of the bag. Let's do another one where you do the exact same movement, but I'm gonna reposition and we'll capture that scene again. And I'm gonna do one more time where I'm really close up and doing the exact same motion. And again, it's trying to duplicate cameras that aren't there, because if you only have one mirrorless camera or DSLR filming these sequences, well, what are you gonna do? You know, there's nothing, I would suggest taking the few minutes that it does to reposition and get multiple perspectives, because you'd be surprised as to how much those additional takes come in handy later on in the video. And you'll see that throughout, is, you know, we're constantly jumping between B-roll and the dialogue, B-roll and the dialogue, B-roll and the dialogue, and it's really, it's what adds value, not just for entertainment purposes, but it helps viewers self-educate, because they can see more visual context to what the customer is talking about.
And anyone can have fun with it. If you thought this video was helpful, please like and subscribe, show your support, and thanks for watching.
So yeah, just stopping it here at 7 minutes, 5 seconds, he does the outro. If you thought this video was helpful, like and subscribe, show your support, and then the end credit logo. And then, of course, the extras and outtakes that come after that. Now, if you have bloopers or things that happen throughout the video that are funny, or takes that didn't quite work out, yeah, we encourage to put that in. It's a bit of comic relief, but you know, we always like to remind directors who are editing and post-production to be mindful not to do something that's too embarrassing or anything for the person in the video. We want to be respectful of their participation, because they don't have control of the editing process like you do. So that concludes this video for behind the scenes, looking at the PSE Recurve bow, and thanks for watching. So that concludes this video, and thanks for watching, and yeah, so that concludes, drink your Ovaltine. And that's a cut.